Alright, welcome back. So, well, first thing we're gonna do is, obviously, you just have to put a note down, and then put our espresso tag on it because this is very important. Well, first thing we're gonna do, I've said first thing already. Why? Okay, the second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to more graph and then put down more text. And let me just position it a little bit. So we have a more text here. I think we could do with the text here, but I actually don't like the font. It doesn't look right. Alright, so I will choose my favorite font. Is it Segio or whatever? Alright, so it's bold enough to take clear. You can see. I mean, you should see what you're doing. If you can't see it, then what's the point? Now we have to go into Procedural4D, and when you go down to objects, we've got what we call a text group, and we'll bring it down here, and we need to bring the more text inside here and expose it as an object, and we're gonna feed it to the text over here, and it automatically is gonna create a group called group.moretext, because the name we put here we can change it to prefix it. It's really messed our text up, and it's putting all of them into point 0, like position 0, which is not so cool. So what you want to make sure you do is before you anytime you update your text, you change wherever anything about the text and you want to update, you want to make sure that it's frozen. So you just have to check this freeze button and then you update it, and afterwards you have to unfreeze it, and that's gonna get you started. So this is the basic thing that when the text group, we've got hide original, and that's what it's doing. It's gonna hide the original one, and then you can also hide the group that has been created now, and it's gonna hide it. So you can all hide the original one. The next thing we're gonna do is to bring down go down here and bring apply transform, and what apply transform does, it needs to an execute port. So we're gonna go down to miscellaneous like we did in the previous tutorial and bring the execute port. Text group is actually outputting it's outputting 2 objects, and one is a character multi-object. That means if you want to have the parent of all the text, that's what it means. But when you choose this one, it means you want to have the individual characters in there. So that's it. So that's what we want to affect. So we want to plug that into the object, and then we want to execute it. Great. We have a problem here. The problem is sometimes when you put stuff before you put this thing, it creates this error message, but don't worry. All you need to do is just delete it and then bring a new one just to make things work, and then you can just plug it back in and you should be good. That's it, we're good. The apply transform is basically you can apply multiple transformation, rotation, whatever to it, and the good thing about this is after you apply everything, you have a fall off. So when you set fall off to 0, it's gonna go back to what it initially started before. It's gonna zero down everything, so it's more like you can animate the fall off to get some interesting effects. So that's what the apply transform does. So what we're going to be doing is to leave everything on 0 0, leave it on the 0 position, because what we want to do is only to rotate it. Let's say we want to rotate it this way on the y-axis. This is what we want to rotate. That's the first animation we want to do. So maybe we can set it to -1.6 thereabout, so it's lying down flat, and we need to animate this right now. There's no animation on it. So if you go down to animation, and then we can get we have wiggle flow, and it's gonna be like randomized. It's more like a sine wiggle. You know what wiggle does. I don't need to explain that. So we want to put that not to a specific position or whatever, because we want to use that as a fall off. So if we put that in a fall off, and if we play it right now, you can see that it's wiggling like that. But we need to just go into the wiggle and change some properties right now. We want to make sure we want to set everything to 1. We don't active to 1 because we don't want it to be shaking like electric. We want to make sure whatever is coming here, we can use a remap fall off. If you go down to fall off, we have what we call remap fall off, and we can actually remap whatever we get in here, so we can change the values that's going in here. So we can specify what values we want. So we can say whatever value you get in from 0, make it resample it or remap it from 0 to 1. So that's what it's going to do. Essentially, it's going to just put 0 to 1. But we're going to take a closer look. The multiplier over here and the wiggle is too much, so when I set it to 1, or let's just set it to 2, so I think this is cool, and we have what we needed. We can also make it 2, so it can come all the way here and go back and go there. So that's more like, well, let's just keep it to 1. That's more like it. So we got our text moving, but yeah, you might say, why is it moving the whole text? We said characters, so why is it moving the whole thing? So it's because we need to feed something to the seed so it can randomize over the seed. So we're gonna use the index from here and make it as a seed, and that's gonna randomize the text. So we've got our first animation going on with the text, and which is really cool. So the next thing is let's deal with the extrusion on the text as well. So with the extrusion on the text, well, what it is that the object we're getting from here is actually an extrude object, but we want a reference of it so we can set the attributes on it over here. So what we can do is to just put down an extrusion object which is not doing anything. We just need a reference from it so we can get the attributes like we did. So what object we want to extrude, we want to extrude these characters that we're getting in here, so put it here, and then we want to go to the object properties and go to the movements and movement Z. Just want to extrude on the Z axis. So right now, if we can duplicate this one and also remap whatever we're getting from here. So we remap this one to 0 to 1. We can give it to the Z axis, and you can see that we can bump it up to get to desired extrusion that we want. So now we get the extrusion, and it's different extrusion from all of them. So we can just bring it back down to like 300. It's too much right now, so 300 is okay. Alright, let's just reposition this a little bit. So we got extrusion going on, but there's a problem here. If you can see, the extrusion is going negative. Extrude backwards and forward. We only want it to extrude forward, not backwards, and that is because the wiggle node is producing negative values and positive values. So we want to make sure that whatever that's coming down from this, we want to clamp it to positive. So we can do that by going to espresso, and now when we go to calculate, we have absolute. What absolute does is it takes everything that is negative and makes it positive, and if you put that in, we can see that we get it on one direction, but that's not the direction we want. So we can also bring in, go to espresso again, and we're going to also bring in calculate and bring in negate. So whatever is doing is gonna do the opposite of it. So we put that in this, and we get what we want. So this is quite good. So the first step is done. We've got our extrusions and our rotations going on perfectly the way we want it. So in the next step, we're gonna create the secondary text. We can come in to the objects, and we've got single copy and group. So what single copy and group does is it's gonna copy the single object and then put it in a group. That's what it's gonna do. So what object we want to copy, the object we want to copy is right here. Fit it right here. It doesn't do anything until any output has been executed, until the output has been connected before it's going to actually work. So we want to make sure we prefix it, and the prefix is going to be like copy. Alright, so we can bring in another apply transform, and then what we're gonna do is let me just separate this part, and now we can bring the execute port way back here so we have more space to work with. So connect the object to the object, and then when we execute it, it's gonna automatically create a new node called copy. And if you dial it down, you can see that it has copies of all the text, and you can see that they actually extrusions. Alright, so we have a copy, but the copy does not come with animation. It's just a static object that's being copied. So if we go back to the text, we can shut the original one visibility off, so we can hide it we can hide the group, the text itself, so we see the copy. So what we see in here is the copy, which it has no animation. So what we're gonna do is to copy the properties like position, rotation, and scale from the original copies, from the original text. Because we've animated them here, we want to copy that animation and put it into the copies that we've made. Alright, so what we can do is to go to the object, objects, and then get transform. So what we want to get transform from, we want to get it from this object. We're getting the transform, so basically we can plug in the position to the position, and you want to make sure that it's set to reset. Alright, and then the rotation to rotation as well, and we get the animation on the rotation. We don't want to bother about the scale because we didn't actually animate the scale. Alright, so this is for the necessary things that we need. We got the animation going on, so we can go back to view our copies, and you can see that they match up. To differentiate, I'm gonna put down material, just a temporal one, and we're gonna stop the animation so we can see what I do. I'm gonna choose a color like yellow, and I'm gonna also make sure the luminance is turned on, and then choose the same color for the luminance. And I'll give the one to the copies so we can differentiate between two. Alright, so now we can see that they have a duplicate of the thing text going on, but we don't want the extrusion on the duplicate. We want to kill the extrusion on the duplicate. Well, we can bring another extrusion object here and set it, but it's okay to just scale down on the z-axis to like -1, and that should do the trick. Or -0.98, just a little bit thicker. And again, let's just shut this off, and so we can see what we're doing. Shut this one off. We can see that let's just add a little bit of thickness to it. So 0.95. That's cool. We got a little bit of thickness over there. Let's just bring this thing back to view. So right now it's just sitting at the center, which is so cool. The animation is going on but we don't want it at the back. We just want it on the surface of the extrusion, which is really hard to get because it's moving and it's extruding at the same time. So this is what we can do. We want to add to the position. We want to add something to the position. So what we're going to do is to go down, put down a matte node, calculate, and put matte node down there, and we want to make sure that it's a vector, because that's what we're gonna do. We want to connect the original position as the first input, and then we want to give it to the position. So that means whatever we do, we can add to the z-axis and then shift it, but still animation is gonna go on. Alright, so we've added to it, but this doesn't do the trick. You know what, it's going up and it's coming down and we're not really getting it. So what we want to do is to take the amount of extrusion on each of them. Actually, the amount of extrusion could be the z position. So let's try that and see. So if we can bring another extrusion object here, and then we take the original object and then we fit it here, and we want to get the extrusion z movement, or go to object properties, and we can go to movement z. That's what we want. And once we've gotten that, we can set that as the z position. But what we get here is a vector, and this is a float, so it can't go in all. If we plug this in right now, it's gonna make the x, y, and z the same amount, which we don't want. So we can actually bring in, if we go to point, I think we've got something we can set vector component. What it does is it takes in float value, and then it will put it where you want it to put it. So it produces a vector, but it's going to only affect what you choose. So we want to put it at the z, so we want it to affect the z, so we take z and put it in here. So when we plug this into the vector, it's going to only affect the z. So you can see something is going on. I mean, we can have the movement, we get amounts going back and forth, but it's still not following the surface, because we need to calculate the y-axis Now we've gotten the Z, but we need to calculate the y-axis because it's going up and down at the same time based on the rotation on the original object. So the trick here is we can take the original rotation on the object and then we can multiply it by the Z amount of extrusion, and that should get us onto the surface. So let's try that and see. So we need a multiply node. So we take this multiply node, make a copy of it and change it to multiply, and we don't want anything in there, so we change it to multiply. So what we want to do is to multiply the rotation that we get by the Z extrusion, and we want to set that to the Y position. So we're gonna add another input and we're gonna make another copy of this, and we want to say set this into the Y position. That's all we need to do, and that should work just fine. As you can see, we get the text following the surface of the extrusion. There we go. There we go. Okay, something is not quite right here, so we wanna check that. I think what we need to do is this value here should let's get rid of it first. This value here should not be a vector. We need to deal with a float. So what we're gonna do is we also have get vector component, and it's gonna do the opposite of the set. So we get the rotation, and what you want to get, we want to get rotation Y, the Y rotation, and we want to multiply that rather by the Z, and then we're gonna set it to the Y position, and that's perfect. That's what we needed. So basically that's what we needed. Let's make some space so we understand what's going on. I will explain to you again what's going on here, because it looks a bit scattered, but I'll just explain everything right now. So what we essentially did, we get a Y component of the rotation because that's the only thing that matters, and we multiply it with the extrusion, that's the Z movement. We multiply it and it's a float, and then we setting it to the Y position and added it up to the position. Meanwhile, we are also setting the Z position to the extrusion. So that's it, and you really get the effect going on, and that's what it is. So the next thing we're gonna do is to make sure that we get the secondary text to vanish when it gets to a certain extrusion level. So that's quite simple. What we can do is to just put down a compare. If you go to calculate, now we got to logic, you got compare, and we want to compare the Z extrusion. So we put that one in here, and we want to compare it and say if it's less than certain amount, and we know that let's just bring the any objects. Let's just put an object so we can set go to general, put object, and then which object do we want to hide is certainly gonna be this object, and we want to hide it. If we want to suppose that visible and editor and the same thing for visible and render, go to basic, visible and render. So what we want to do is to compare the Z extrusion and see if it's below certain amount, then we turn it off. So once we give it to it, everything goes off because we need to check if it's below certain. So when we start to dial up this number, so when it's less than a certain number, it's negative. You can see as you dial down, you can get the effect. Now if it's less than this number, then it's gonna show, but we want the reverse. We could say if it's greater than, so we get the effect we want. So you can dial down this number to get what you like. So that's it, and that's all it is. So it's truly procedural. So right now we can go in and just change our text, and everything should work fine. So we can just go to our text, and then we can just go to our text. We can freeze it, and we can change the text in there to like Procedural4D, and we can update it, and we can unfreeze it, and that should do the trick. And now what it is that we've updated, so the old copy, you can see the old one is there, still there. That's still the one we did, in case you wanted to go back to it. But the new one for Procedural4D is right here. So we can put if we put the material on it, we can see it, and we can get rid of this one because we don't need it. Alright, so that's it. So this is how to achieve the effects, and you can put some good material on it and then go. Alright, so I'll see you sometime with another magic. Thanks for wasting your time with me, as I keep wasting your time.